Here we go, episode 24. Can you believe we've had 23 episodes and this thing just keeps going?
We're just getting started, my friend. I mean,
I know.
and we just talked offline. I've gotten more feedback directly about viewership on this over the last few weeks than we've had,
Yes.
all the previous months combined. So we're finding an audience. People are excited about
Yeah.
the subject matter, and yeah, like I
Fun.
said, I think we're just hitting our stride right now. So very
Yeah.
exciting.
You know, a funny thing about life is when you find topics that are like the total niche of all niche interests. I mean, there's just a very few of us in this world who have a fascination with worship from the 90s. But then you gather that unique group around, and then you can just have these alive conversations. And even this artist today, Todd
Yeah.
Fields, I mean, he is a gatherer of people, and clearly from his latest album, the Foundations one that we're going to talk about, is all full of all of these songs that are so epic in our history. So we're getting to talk about it. Chad, before we bring Todd in, I just wanted to read this because you were saying you've been getting a bunch of comments about our
Yeah.
podcast. I don't know if you know this, but we got an email from some guy who's been listening to us, and it was super encouraging. So I thought I would just read it. Little fan mail here. Hey, we've got one
Do
or
it.
two fans. They came in.
This,
We're good for it. So he says, this is Chris Connors. Thank you, Chris, for sending in a beautiful message. He says, hi, my name's Chris. I'm a songwriter and worship leader from a small town in Appalachian Mountains of Southwest Virginia. He stumbled on the 90s worship podcast a week ago and have been hooked ever since. He says, I gave my life to Christ as a 17-year-old in 1992 and right away was drawn to write praise and worship songs that express my heart and that of the church. And listening to these interviews has stirred me deeply. It's been so encouraging and inspiring to hear the journeys of these songwriters over the last 25 to 30 years. Back then, I longed for authentic live worship recordings. Winds of Worship, which we've talked about, that was the only thing I could find. And now through these interviews, he's realizing how widespread and impactful the worship movement really was. And they've opened my eyes and given him fresh appreciation for what God was doing for the pioneers he used. So he just wanted to say thank you. The interviews are feeding his soul, and he feels encouraged and connected.
amen.
And keep them coming. So, Chris, thank you for that. I mean, sometimes I wonder, is anybody listening? Well, apparently one person is. So, no, there's a few
Oh
out
yeah.
there, and we love it. So we're just going to keep these going. Let's get on with Todd. This will be a fun interview. And I love our bumper music. So if you haven't heard it, get ready for this. Todd, how's that for getting you in the mood for the 90s? Hey, there you go.
Feels pretty good, guys.
Feels pretty good. Well, it's a privilege to have you on. I feel like you among us, I mean, we all just grew up in this era. We were so influenced by these great songs, and you, of all people, have found ways of gathering even so many of these artists together and singing with them, recording, remaking their songs. I don't know. I just want to open by asking you, like, give us a little bit of a life. How does all this music fit into your DNA as a worship leader?
Thanks, guys. It's an honor to be on. Yeah, I think, at 55, in hindsight, so much
Uh-huh.
of music just reminds me of God's presence with me on the journey from the time I was little to now. And obviously, all music's pretty amazing. It's all from God. All melody comes from Him. So my childhood, there's lots of really good songs that moved me, and not necessarily even church music. But when I got into college, we used to lead singing in youth group, and it was kind of the 80s thing of just youth group choruses and stuff. And I found myself on a trip with Operation Mobilization. They're a missions organization globally, and
Yeah.
was in Germany, and this guy was on stage named Graham Kendrick, leading
Yep.
worship. And the only thing I knew about Graham was he had written this "Shine Jesus Shine" song that I had heard on the radio, and I liked it. And that was kind of that combined with me coming home, and then Louis Giglio moving from Choice with his wife Shelley to Atlanta. We started a thing called 722. That was all happening like mid '90s, early '90s
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
So some of these, some of these songs that were actually singable, that people new stuff that people were writing were coming into view, and it was just a beautiful time because there wasn't such an overwhelming influx of worship songs and people trying to write it, that I feel like the stuff that was coming out was just really monumental and new. It felt like this is a
Yes.
new chapter in the church. We love hymns, they're great, and then there's God's doing something through people like Martin Smith, and
Yeah.
there's just this new choruses coming out, and Lord, what are you doing in your church? So it was a pretty amazing time. We were just like surfing a wave at the moment and
So, yeah. So
enjoying
much.
the
Yeah.
ride. Every time we'd come in at 722, a different month is like, well, have you heard this song called "Open the Eyes of My Heart"? And
Yeah.
it's like we try it out in front of people, they jump onto it, and then it's like this Hungry project comes out of England, and Catherine Scott singing "Breathe,"
Yes.
Hungry, and the air I breathe, and I'm like, what? This feels fresh and new and exciting, and
Totally.
these are things we want to say to God. So it
Mm-hmm.
was a beautiful, beautiful time,
Mm-hmm.
and it felt new for a lot of us.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it kind of laid the foundation for so much of what we've now built on in the last 25 years, and hopefully we haven't strayed too much from the original vision, because certainly there's some incredible music being written today, but it does feel
Right.
like a different landscape today. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that it still gives us reason to go back into this earlier era and ask the question, like, where were we? What was happening? What are some of the roots that we can go back to? Chad, I know that this entire endeavor that you have done, and even the docuseries that's just come out, explores that very question of trying to like mine for the rich gold that was in that era. Hey, Chad?
Yeah, absolutely, Ryan. I mean, that's exactly why we've done it and are working on it.
Yes.
And I'm excited. Mr. Todd Fields here is going to be making an appearance in a future episode of
Oh, excellent.
90s Worship Night docu-series. So, yeah, just so much knowledge and history, and really, I think the main thing is just takeaways for the current generation to reflect on,
Mm-hmm.
that hopefully will have a positive impact on worship music culture.
Mm-hmm. Well, Todd, I turn 55 in 20 days, so I'm on your tail. I heard you say you're 55,
Welcome.
so
Well, it's a beautiful
so
thing, man.
I just can't wait for
Uh,
all the discounts gonna come my way. Just
oh
50%
my
off, 10%
gosh.
off, just bring it.
Come on.
And yeah, bring it on. I'm sure you must be living in, so much extra money now from all the discounts you get at all the restaurants and everything. So,
No, it turns out I love this season because I
yes.
feel like so much of the earlier generations was striving and just trying to figure out, like, Lord,
Yeah.
why am I here, and what do you want to
Yeah.
do with this story you're writing with my life? And
Yeah.
he's in his kindness, it's gotten a lot more clear, and it's just as I like to say, a lot easier yoke than the heavy
Hmm.
yoke that I carried in 20s and 30s.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I want to just dive into that a little bit. Like, could you tell me? I always love to hear a little bit about the wrestle. Could you bring me back into a season in your life which you felt like those were like the darker days or the more wrestling days, and then help me understand how you've come now to a place of just inner rest and more clarity? I'd love to know about whatever you're willing to share with the millions of people who are going to know this, secret part of your life after this.
No, I'm happy to share a little bit. I think, those years, even in the 90s,
Yeah.
just it was like, hey, who's this Chris Tomlin guy? And he's on stage next to me, and why his songs are doing great. What about my songs? And
Yes.
there you start getting into this season where you're trying to provide for your family. There's a mixture of, God, I need resources. I'm working in a church. I'm always here every week a few times. I'm here full time. Jesus is my job. If people really knew what I struggled with, would I have a job?
Right. Yeah.
There's kind of that reality. And then, all those years, and I know God was present with me in them, you guys, but at the same time, he's just showing me now that I had heard so many sermons, so many sermon series, and so many even good songs and worships and rooms where I would say, hey, God's presence showed up and it was beautiful and God touched people. And yet, most recently, in just the work we do with the worship circle, we're kind of discovering in God's kindness that our early years of formation here on this earth are the area and the ground where the enemy tried to take us down. And if we don't pay attention to the ways that we were harmed in our childhood and our growing up years and our family of origin, like it doesn't matter how many things we memorize, it doesn't matter how long we study, like there's formational brain things that happen in our life. And so we're in this kind of holistic journey as a ministry of paying attention to, what happened to you that was harmful, not as a just trying to drudge up stuff, but usually those places are the place the enemy wanted to get us when he's like, I see this bright light coming on the earth. He's got the fingerprint of God and his glory on it. How can I take that away? And so he comes after all of us as these innocent kids. And those places, if we do what we call doing the work, and we're curious around what happened in community where it's safe, there's really transformation and healing that can happen in the presence of other brothers, when we're able to go there. So it's kind of crazy to say all that, you guys, on this, because I know it's about songs, but that's just where I'm living right now. We just did a conference in Dallas, Texas, where we did some of this work in community. And, people were just like, man, I've been in rooms singing my whole life, but someone saw me this week and they didn't turn away,
Yeah.
So I believe as a songwriter, as a worship leader, one of the things we're focusing on is this word called integration. Can we have an integrated heart and mind where we know the truth of God in our mind, but we've gone to the places in our heart that we closed up and we've allowed God to open those and heal them. And in doing that, and it's all tied into our story, we then become really authentic worship leaders behind a mic in front of people.
Yeah.
We're able to live with that light yoke versus what are people thinking? It's like, well, I know what God thinks. I know where he was in my whole journey, and I don't need anything from this room. I've got all that he's given me through his son and through the healing work I've done. And now I can sing a song that's coming from the depths of the sadness, the grief, but also the joy and the hope that we have and what Jesus says our future is. So we're wrestling with that Isaiah thing of Isaiah said Jesus was a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And then the fact he also wept. And how do we use and lean into that as sons and daughters who are leading worship so that we can empathize with the people in the room? So I would say so many of these songs that you guys are talking about, were moments of God's kindness where, man, he touched our heart. Some of these songs came out and it was like, whoa, this seems really pure and honest. And it's something in this pure honesty with God is connecting with my heart. And I think that's why so many of these songs you guys want to highlight are huge for us. Because even in the midst of our stories of harm, even in the midst of us thinking ministry was going to solve all our problems, God used a simple song and a truth and a melody to say, hey, I see you and I love you and you're not alone. And so that's kind of the work we're involved in now with the worship circle, and really where this Foundations record, it was really, we did a hymns album years ago, and the reason we did a hymns record is, one, it was all public domain and we didn't have to fool with publishing. Like, what's the easiest way to record? And then Nathan Knuckles and myself, we would do these rest retreats, and he goes, isn't it beautiful when you hear worship leaders singing and it's like there's not a whole lot of production and it's just voices, and we were trying to figure out a way we could capture that. So that happened, and then a few years later, In Touch offered us their studio in Atlanta, and we were having the rest retreat nearby, and I got with my friend Jacob Suter, who's a producer of a lot of really great work, and that's how this whole idea came. It was like, what songs could we do that these people have already been a part of? that this isn't a heavy lift, and we're not trying to be a record label. And y'all, we just literally said, Lord, what are the songs that are resonating with our hearts as we look back that remind us all that we were loved and not alone? And that was the question.
It's so amazing because
Yeah.
this is the very question we're talking about, and what Chad's been, and remembering all of this. I mean, let's just look at some of these songs and think about, I don't know if any stories or thoughts come to mind. I actually took a bunch of pictures from the experience that you had. This is that night of recording,
Yeah.
which I'm sure, as I show some of these shots, it probably would bring back memories that you would have, and people.
Yeah,
That's
man.
Charlie Hall, Matt. Help
Matt
me out with
Brock.
these names. Matt Brock. There we go. Let's just get
Matt
a
Brock.
taste of it. Go ahead. Matt Marr and
Christian
Stanfield from Passion. And
Laura
Story, of course, Paul Baloche, Meredith Andrews. This isn't even all of them, but when I look at these pictures and I see the circle, I think I had a picture here that just kind of shows, like, literally the worship circle. There it is. Describe to me how you felt in this moment, in this circle, recording these songs together.
Well, the thing that was beautiful, a lot was beautiful about it. One, in that circle are brothers and sisters who had been in small group together for the most part all year. So this was the end of tears. This was the end of, I've just found out my granddad has cancer. Like, this wasn't just come to a concert and sing. This was, and the beauty of this whole circle is you got Christian, Laura, Matt, you've got all these people, and I just love Charlie's right there. It's like these artists have said yes to showing up monthly to be a small group leader and to see, love, and care for other brothers and sisters. And that alone is just not normal.
Yeah.
Most people are like, man, I'm on tour. I don't have time for this. And for the fact that these artists have said, Todd, I'm with you in this vision. Like, what would happen if we gave ourselves some time where we didn't have to hide each month. We could come as we are and be loved. And that's what's special about this circle, you guys, is it's not just, we didn't like go, hey, come to this concert. We're going to record a bunch of songs.
Right. Yeah.
It was, these guys have paid, it's cost them much to be in that circle.
Yes.
It cost them the risk of being known, and when they risked being known, they found God's love and the love of brothers and sisters. So that's a miraculous thing. Then you've got In Touch, who I've got kind of relationship with from my history, where Dr. Charles Stanley was my pastor years ago. They basically just said, we're with you. You guys can use this place. Then you've got each of these artists and the story they represent and how we've all been on this journey, and they said yes to being part of this thing. So it was a lot. I mean, I was very emotional that night. I had to sing Rich Mullins' song Step by Step. And I remember I got into those verses, and we were doing the run through because we did like a safety. We recorded a safety in case Jacob needed to edit vocals or something. And I remember I got done with that song, and Laura turned to me and she goes, how are you going to sing that? Because she knows like what I've been through in my life and how hard it's been. And Rich is writing these lyrics. Sometimes the night was beautiful. Sometimes the sky was so far away. He's talking about like the longing in all of us for healing and hope, and how God's said all these stars, one star represents you and your name, and it's emotional. And so I literally had a hard time. I was like, am I going to be able to sing this? And everybody in the circle knew how hard kind of my year or two had been. And so as I'm trying to sing, but God gave me the ability, and Suter was like, man, you nailed it. So
beautiful.
I think it was that way for all of us, you guys. It was like these songs weren't just, hey, sing a song. It was Mac Brock us going, Mac, if you had one song from this era that you would bring? He was like, man, I love Lord You Have My Heart by Martin Smith. And of course, Paul Baloche, when we threw out this idea, I was like, dude, we need to do a Open the Eyes of My Heart, like a different version. He goes, well, it is like the 25th anniversary. I said, of course it is. We need to do
Yes. Yeah.
So Integrity jumped in with their integrated music team, and they were like, "Hey, we want to help you guys get this out." And so it was hard because we had a lot of artists and a lot of contracts, and had to have a lawyer involved. But
Huh.
everybody played ball, and we got it done. And I just love what God's done with these songs.
Yeah.
Integrity keeps telling us, "Hey, the YouTube views keep going up on this, and it's not normal that with a project that
Yes.
happens. Like normally it fades away, but this keeps
Right.
gaining steam. You know,
Fantastic. I noticed it seemed like "Did You Feel the Mountains Tremble" was quite a moment. Kristen did an incredible song. That for me, I can remember that was the first time I experienced like another level of congregational worship. I just happened to be in the back of some auditorium at a youth thing, and they came, put that
Yep,
song in the queue, and the eruption of intense, like 500 hands in the air. I had never seen this, and this is, I don't know what year
sure.
it would have been, maybe 1995 or 6 or something, but it just broke open my eyes to go, what is going on? This is not kumbaya anymore,
No,
right?
man, it's funny. It's funny because we were in our first house. I think it was 97 or 98 when this happened. Louis Giglio called me. We were having a call. He had just done the first Passion Conference,
Yeah.
and I didn't even know what that was. It was like, what's that? He goes,
Yeah.
oh, we met over here in Texas, and he goes, man, there's this song we sang, and it's got something on it. Like when we sang it,
Mm-hmm.
the whole room exploded. He goes, it's this song called "Did You Feel the Mountains Tremble?" And so I remember Louis saying that on the phone to me, and then we started doing it 722. And sometimes you
Yeah.
don't know what a song has on it until you're in the room with the people.
Yeah.
Like you can listen in your car and you're like, oh, that's cool, but when you sing it, there's something that's like our heart's cry, and it's bigger than us. And that was one of them. So when we were trying to figure out songs to go on the record, that was one that was in my back pocket that I was like, I remember calling Christian on the phone, and I think he wanted to do a slow song. And I was like, Christian,
Mm.
can you listen to me for a second? He goes, yep. I said, you need to do Did You Feel the Mountains Tremble? I said, there's
Yeah.
no one I know that can lead that like you, because
No.
you're a cheerleader. You're like a champion. You like lead us into battle. And man, he took
Yeah.
the bull by the horns and came up with that refrain, "Come, Lord Jesus, come," and it was one of the most that was that moment, and then Kim Walker Smith singing "Jesus Paid It All" in the first recording.
Yeah.
Those are two thin space moments for me where I feel like there was a thin space between us and heaven that night.
Huh. So amazing to hear these stories, and I mean, every one of these songs brings back memories for me. The step by step, like you said, that was a theme song for our wedding, actually. So it just was
Oh
like
wow!
Oh wow.
1994, and we did a little worship
Yes,
set in our wedding
Nice.
because I was just breaking through as a worship leader in my own little community and had a little band, and I probably sang some of the old Vineyard songs. And people are like, normally at weddings, it only takes 15 minutes. We're in, we're out, you do. But we just kind of lingered a little bit, and that was step by step. And I remember Rich Mullins coming to our home local church. He had that little dulcimer thing, and he had it his
yeah,
own
man.
way. I think Beaker was there. I don't even know who Beaker is. It was just a name I always saw on the copyright line. I'm like, who is this guy? And but that was a
Yeah,
song that broke open kind of this. I mean, we were probably 12 people in a circle with 6 acoustic guitars. That's how it was for us
Mm.
because we all wanted to play the songs. Do
I
you
love
remember? Do
that.
you have some of those memories of like we're talking like not recording or leading, but just people together? I mean, we're the same age, so in the '94 we were both 24 years old, and just gathering with whoever you were with all your problems and all your issues and hangups that you didn't know about. What's your memory
Yeah,
of some of those raw moments of those days?
yeah. I've just always been a fan of the small. You know,
Hmm.
um, I feel like, and just the so much in culture in the world, and even sometimes in ministry would say the more people that are there, the more successful it is. But honestly, like you said, the most memorable moments oftentimes for me are in the small, because in a big room you can't see the faces.
Mm-hmm.
And in the small rooms you can see the faces and you know the stories.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's something really authentic and powerful about coming as we are, especially when we know each other and what it's cost us to show up that day. And to be able to dig in with a song. But I've just always loved singing, man. I was singing since I was 4 or 5, and anytime I get in a room with people, I love to hear voices, you know.
Hmm.
I just think voices, even without the loud band, it's just there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm leading in a church called Peachtree Presbyterian in Atlanta right now, and this past Christmas we have this big choir as part of the Christmas thing, and they're there for the traditional service every Sunday. But man, just to hear human voices,
Mm-hmm.
it's transcendent. Like I was weeping, like hearing people, because when you hear somebody sing, you're hearing their soul, and it's a very intimate act. So one of the most amazing moments for me, you guys, was when I was with Graham Kendrick in the '90s. It was early '90s in Germany. We were in Nuremberg in an arena, and he's leading worship, and he's got his songs he's written. But at some point, he went into "Jesus Loves Me,"
Hmm.
and I was like down front. There's probably like 5,000 people in the room. And all around me, there's like 7 languages singing Jesus Loves Me in their own language.
Hmm.
And I had tears coming down my eyes. I went back to my sleeping bag on the hard floor in the gym I slept on that night. And I'm going to bed going, God, this is so crazy that you understood all those at the same time. And then you know the story of everyone in this room. And that's one of those mysterious things about just the human voice and singing and opening our hearts to praise and
Mm-hmm.
to lament and to. There's actual scientific proof that corporate singing heals the brain. And so
Mm-hmm.
I like that blows my mind, because, when the disciples left to go to the Garden of Gethsemane from the upper room, there's record that they were singing a hymn. It's like, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that we can invite people into healing by singing corporately is just like, God, you go, what a great thing that you say, hey, it's good to sing and make music in our hearts to
Mm-hmm.
God, you know?
Mm-hmm. That's good.
So
Just as you're
those are
sharing,
some good memories, man.
I was thinking, looking at these songs, that I think what made them so monumental for us was they were made for the small. I mean, yes, they were sung in big stadiums, but they worked and just elevated the voices when there was just 10 or 12 or 40 or 50 of us with
Yep.
just a couple acoustic guitars. I mean, that was my memory of cutting through with these songs, and what opened up. It's kind of like a little bit of a theme I see even in '90s worship was, let's let's raise up the voices and let's make space for them. And perhaps if there's anything we want to look back on with fondness and try to harvest out some of the goodness that came from this era, it's bringing that into the 2025 when we've
Yeah.
got lasers and band and audio shebangs everywhere. It's like it's great, but I mean, I don't know what you guys, but the in ears is something I love and hate, because I just want to rip them out so I can hear the
Man,
congregation. That's
we've
one of
gotten to
those
the
things.
we've gotten to the place where I've been at it for a year at Peachtree Pres, and
Yeah,
I don't use a click or a computer.
right.
And I just tell people I don't have enough life left to concern myself with technology, in the sense that it's beautiful. It's so beautiful to me when we come together and we have to listen to one another, and we have to
Yeah.
pay attention to who's playing where and with what dynamic, and what do we all as a group want this to feel like. And the humanness of music is so
Mm-hmm.
beautiful, and I feel like that's such an awesome thing. And all these songs you're talking about, you can do with just an acoustic guitar, sit at a piano. Anyone can play them.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the songs of the church should be approachable. Should be. It doesn't mean they have to be dumb chord progressions like rinse and repeat every time. And it's beautiful
Yeah.
to throw in minors and flat sevens and major sevens and all that. It adds to the beauty of the songs. But yeah, man, there's something about just the tenderness and the simplicity of these that, they just draw us in.
Yeah. Well, man, I appreciate you saying that. I think it's very encouraging just to know someone like yourself, even for as far and wide as you have gone as a worship leader, and now you're at a place where you're at some Presbyterian church that I've never heard of, and you're just singing without a click, and you're drawn back into the simple, mesmerizing beauty of
Yeah.
just congregational voices.
It was almost a
Yeah.
thing of, because I was part of a big production for so many years. And
Yes.
again, God can move through production. That's great. But there's this thing in me that wants to be, the word we use is, I want to be present. I want to be present to myself. I want to be present to God. I want to be present to the room. I want to be present to my band. And there's something about chorus 2, 3, 4 in my ears
Yes,
that keeps me
yeah,
that keeps me
seriously.
from owning something, which is, unless you know this song, unless you can play your instrument well, and unless you're cognizant of the room, it's not going to happen. There's something weighty that you're responsible for today. And it's not coming from a Macintosh by a drum kit.
Yeah.
And so there's this thing about, and as a result, it's caused us to lean in. Like, we've got a piano player named Brian Mann. He used to score soundtracks for like Lethal Weapon movies in Hollywood and stuff. And I discovered him by accident at our church. And man, he plays such beautiful piano. And I'm like, the world needs more of Brian Mann's piano. And I just go back to my 722 days, and it's like, if we're doing communion, I'm like, Brian, can you just play something? It's like, in the world of high production, it's like, well, how long is it going to be? What key is it going to be in? Like,
Yeah.
there's so many constraints we put, and we make it so hard, I think, because
Yeah.
we want to make sure we control everything. And I just think there's so much fun in risk and going, we have no idea how this is going to go today, but we've done our
Right.
best.
Yes.
We're not on a click. We're not adding a gazillion extra tracks. It's who you lead
Yes.
on stage. And you guys know this from these songs we're talking about. When I started there, I just wanted people to sing. And when they asked me to jump in, I said, I'm going to start in the first few Sundays. It's just going to be me and a guitar. And I want these people to know that without a band, worship can happen. And let's start there. And let's move forward in some different expressions, but really just say, guys, it's beautiful for your voices to raise to God. And I want to get rid of everything that would keep us from going there, and just, make this easy for you to engage and beautiful. And I want you to hear how powerful it is when we're all in this together. And so sometimes we have to strip away the production,
Yeah.
get back to the, foundation, as we like to say, of
Yeah.
a great song with a great melody and a pure heart and an honest heart coming to God with our friends on stage. And man, it's such a fun journey when you can do that and lean into the mystery of what might happen if it was just up to us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I feel like you're validating the longing that, is in our hearts. And perhaps, I mean, hey, listen, for those of you listening in, we're not asking you to just go abandon all your technology on Sunday, but I do want you to kind of feel the tension, feel the longing, feel the reason why we're talking about this, and to know I don't know, there's going to be some way that you can figure out how to integrate it. And maybe it's in a moment in a worship service where you've got 6 songs and 4 of them are to the click. But what if you took one of the songs and it was during communion, and you just said, okay, in ears out,
Yeah.
click off, and just
Yeah.
listen to me, band. Here's 4 chords.
Yeah.
I try that at my church, and my band is all like, where are we going? We're stressed out. And I'm trying to like work their muscles to just go, just trust me. Like, we'll get there. And even if it's not perfect, oh well.
Yeah, one
right?
of the things that we do, we just kind of run through stuff in the choir and with the piano, like on Sunday before we have to play. But one of the things that I've always tried to do is, if I've got people involved that I trust, I just love the idea that, man, you guys are all such a big part of this team. And like, what do you think about doubling this bridge? What do you guys think? I think there's something in leadership and even people that are uncomfortable with playing without a click, it's like, hey, what if we tried this? And I want you to be honest with me, and let's try. It's always, what do you think, and what's your opinion, and how are you feeling about it? I
Mm-hmm.
love to just include everybody because every voice is valuable, and I think that's part of a healthy culture. Is just everyone needs to be able to say, "Hey, we're with you," and
Mm-hmm.
I think has to happen gradually with what we're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not saying throw away your computer and all that. And I
Yeah.
know with a lot of volunteers that aren't professional musicians, there can be some help with just locking in and, okay, here's where we're going. And I get it. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying, in this season of life, after doing this for so many years, I feel like I'm returning to where I started from,
Mm-hmm.
which was before all that stuff happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, it's so good. People are
Mm-hmm.
like, man, we love this music and we love how simple it is. And
Love it. Love it.
it's just fun.
Well, Todd, you're super, super encouraging to us, to me, to this, the reason why we're doing this. Could you just give us a little insight as to, so you've got Worship Circle, is it still going? Like, are there still opportunities for people if they're thinking, man, I would love to pay the price and whatever it is
Yeah.
to get with some people? Can you tell us about
Yeah.
some opportunities?
Our terms start in January and they go to September, and then we have a rest retreat in Atlanta on October. That's kind of already in motion right now, but follow us. Go to worshipcircle.com or follow us on social media with Instagram or Facebook. We're going to be announcing our summit that's coming up in August. We haven't nailed the date down, but that's our all skate kind of where you can taste the small group experience. And you can jump online and be in an artist small group, and that's just a time to just be seen, loved, and cared for. And then we usually have a few of that's our story conference that just ended. So
Okay. Okay.
that was
This is out of
unbelievable. We
date.
just that was in Dallas. But if you click on the summit tab at the top of the page, that's what's coming up.
Summit. Am I missing it?
Click on the journey right there.
The
Yeah, if you go to the
journey.
journey, you'll be
Okay.
able to
Yes.
see.
Okay.
That's all the stuff, and that's how you can join. But keep an eye out for the summit. So that's coming up, and we're also praying about being in a few more cities in the years to come. That my thought is we're going to be in a couple cities a year on the ground with worship leaders to do some work and go back and forth between those cities. But my real heart, you guys, is to care for our coaches and their families.
Mm-hmm.
Really to provide a place for their souls and hearts to be cared for, and for them to do the work it takes to be well, and for their soul and heart and bodies to be cared for so they're not burning out. And as that goes,
Mm-hmm.
we feel like it's going to trickle down into the small groups and all the people that are part of the ministry. So,
Hmm.
man, we're in year 12. We've had 30 countries involved, and like over 1,500
Hmm.
worship leaders have been in small groups. So
Hmm.
we're enjoying it. It's fun, and we're hearing God do amazing things through this process. But thank you guys for having me on.
Yes, so encouraging, and we'll put links to the Worship Circle. I mean, it's very easy to find worshipcircle.com. I just went there, and hopefully that could be an option for some of those of you listening in. But
Yeah.
thank you,
And if
Todd.
finances are an
Yeah,
issue, we have
yeah.
scholarships and we have fundraising ways, and people always take care of others. So
Wow.
we've never seen somebody who wanted to do Worship Circle not be able to be in. So just sign up, apply, and our team will reach out to you.
Yeah, yeah. And just like to note, they come somewhere once a month, or are they online?
No, it's
Okay.
online. We do two small groups. We do one small group meeting a month, and we have two main sessions a month. But then at the end of the term, after we've done the whole thing, we come and we celebrate at
Mm-hmm.
Rest Retreat.
Okay.
And again, it's
Gotcha.
usually unplugged.
Yes.
Again, it's back to small and simple, and we're doing it at Stone Mountain, October 20 to 22, and that registration goes live in about a couple of weeks. We're going to light the candle on that. So
All right. Well, good job. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, your heart, and also, like, I just want to say thanks for validating the longing for, breaking away from even some of the tech, and just appreciating and entering into
yeah,
the simple, to hearing the voices, to listening to the room, all these things that you want to be able to
mm-hmm.
do, and so appreciate that a lot. Chad, any final
Thanks,
thoughts that
guys.
you might have? Chad?
No, just super excited about what Todd's doing with the worship circle, and just
Yes.
encourage, like I said, anyone who's interested in being involved. It's something you need to do for sure.
For sure. Right on. Okay. Well, this is
Thanks,
Ryan
guys.
Dahl and Todd Fields and Chad. And thank you for joining us at the 90s Worship Podcast. Stay tuned for the next episode.